Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of E-Commerce Mastery. I'm your host, Ben Gothard, and today we have the honor of speaking with a gentleman who has built multiple companies, is an alumni of Y Combinator, has optics into the e-commerce industry from the perspective of data, of being a founder of multiple companies, of serving tens of thousands of merchants already, right now, to this day. This man sees into the future of e-commerce. And today we have the honor of speaking with Nick Raushenbush. And we're going to talk about how to exceed the limits of modern e-commerce. Nick, I'm so excited you're here. It's such an honor. How are you, man?
Doing great, Ben. So great to be on the show. I really appreciate the opportunity and excited to chat about e-commerce. So yeah, I'm pumped.
Me too, man. And thank you so much for carving out the time. So
Gladly.
for you listening and watching, I'm going to give you a breakdown of what you can expect. One, we're going to ask Nick about his story, and it's a good one. So we're in for a treat. Two, we're going to break down some fundamentals of how to really exceed the limits of modern e-commerce. The world's moving fast. We need to move faster. And we're going to break it down into three critical elements. One, we're going to build for a mobile world. Two, we're going to focus on performance. And three, we're going to adjust rapidly. Then at the very end, Nick has done something incredible, and he has put together a very, very special gift for you that you can only get from this podcast episode. So stick around for that special gift. Nick, I would love to hear your story.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much for the intro. Yeah. So gosh, my story in a nutshell. Well, we can start. I was born. I
That's
won't
a
go
good
that.
thing.
Yeah. I won't go that far back. I won't bore you. But yeah, after graduating college, I got a job. The economy had just crashed back in 2009. I got the only job that I could get, which was a sales job, and my role was to do 200 cold calls a day. So I did that for almost a year, and then on Sundays I would go in and I would do mailers. And I was one of those, very tenacious, whatever sales associates. I was, wearing my father's oversized clothes and stuff because I'm broke. I just graduated college, didn't have any money. And yeah, I really wanted to be like an amazing business person. And I had like this very cookie cutter idea of what that would take, right? Like I was like, oh, I really want to go get my MBA. If I could only go get my MBA from an amazing school, like Harvard or Stanford, then that's really going to make me like a successful business person. I could go and start my own company and be an entrepreneur and become successful. And it's very interesting that like I had that very conventional, traditional mindset of, of what it took to be an entrepreneur. And I kind of continued on, I went from that job, which to be honest, I had a great boss. She was so wonderful. Moved on to another company, also a great company. There were nothing wrong with these companies and these jobs, but they just really, I felt like I wanted so much more. I found that I was kind of pigeonholed into these roles, in sales and in client services that I felt like just weren't allowing me to really like express the full potential of like my business, capability. And yeah, I kind of hit this, this really big moment, in a couple of reasons. Number one, unfortunately, my younger brother passed away in a terrible accident. And my mother had passed away, quite a few years further or before that. And yeah, it really got me thinking about life and like what was important, and what I was doing with my time here, yeah, I kind of decided, well, like, hey, you got to do the things that you really want to do. You can't just, you shouldn't just settle. Certainly not for me at that time. That is, it was not on my mind. And in part of that played, that kind of transferred into a lot of different areas of my life, but also got me thinking about what I spend doing with most of my time, which is working, right? And my good friend from high school, Jesse, he came to me and he said, "Hey, we should start an agency." My first company was actually an agency, and yeah, he basically said to me, "Hey, come start this agency with me." And I was like, "Oh no, I'm busy working, so I can go to business school, so I can start a business and become an entrepreneur." He's like, "You don't need to go to business school to become an entrepreneur." He's like, come with me, man. I started this business. I'm already doing really well. I'm making a bunch of money, making these videos. And so we started my first company, Glass and Marker, creative agency. Took that company to making a couple $1 million a year, and now they're doing much more than that, and have a bunch of clients. And yeah, eventually, a lot of our clients for that agency, Glass and Marker, were startups, right? Technology companies. And yeah, I started to get quite a bit of client envy, as it were. And I read about Y Combinator. I read the Lean Startup. I saw all these things, and yeah, that kind of pushed me to say, hey, even though I started this company and I ran it until I was 29 years old, I wanted to go and try something much more risky, which is to go play around in the tech industry. So I realized that was a big monologue right there for a second. I'll pause, but I can also go into what lied ahead, of course, with Shogun and entering e-commerce and technology. But yeah, I'll take a breather there for a second.
So first of all, I appreciate going so deep there
Yeah,
because to me it's really important to understand really where you come from and your background and
for
your
sure.
your history. And um, uh, this may be a little bit more sensitive of a topic, um, but I'm curious when those two tragedies happened in your life,
Yeah,
and it seems like that fundamentally shifted your outlook and how you looked at time and how you looked at what you did with your time.
yeah.
What were those changes? Like, how did those changes manifest themselves? Like, if you were spending time on XYZ before and you shifted to ABC, how did you decide what to focus your time on and make those decisions?
Yeah, for sure. So the first thing that I noticed, especially after the passing of like my brother, is that like it was very hard for me to concentrate on things that I didn't find to be like particularly important to me, or that I didn't value that much. Um, Whereas before, like I think that I was pretty amenable to kind of like yeah, I don't know, kind of working a job and kind of doing doing what I was told or whatever. Like I started to really sit there and kind of be like, oh wow, this doesn't actually bear the same amount of importance to me that it did before. And that's not to say that like the things that I was working on weren't important, or the clients that I was serving at these companies that I worked at weren't important, but just I wasn't really resonating with them. But it was something about entrepreneurship and creating something like from myself, with my friends, that just was meaningful to me. And like being able to have that direct impact and that ownership, it resonated with me. Now, like, do I think that that's like the business is the only important thing or the only thing that changed? No, absolutely not. It made me question a lot, like my relationships with people and how I viewed myself, and how I would spend my free time and stuff. But we all got to work, right? And I think that it just changed that aspect for me, where it's like, okay, if I'm working, whatever, 50, 60, 70 hours a week, like I want that to be put into something that I'm really excited about and that I have joy in doing. And for me, I have joy in building companies and taking care of team members and building products and providing services that bring like a delightful experience to our clients. Um, and I'll kind of pick back up. That's where I went to go start Shogun. And for those of you that don't know, Shogun is a really powerful drag and drop page builder for e-commerce stores that's seamlessly integrated into Shopify, BigCommerce, Salesforce Commerce Cloud, and Magento. And this really empowers anywhere from aspiring entrepreneurs to small businesses to startups to majorly successful D2C brands, like I Am Yoga Apparel, Lisa Mattresses, Chubby Shorts, Movement Watches. All use our software, all the way down to folks who are just getting their start. And it empowers their non-technical team members to visually build landing pages, blog pages, product pages, and so on and so forth without writing code, with a really robust drag and drop page builder. And so that's what Shogun is. But Shogun wasn't always that. Before that, it had no e-commerce application. We tried selling it to, it was just a page builder for any website. We tried selling it to startups. We tried selling it to enterprise. We tried selling it to agencies. Nothing worked. And it actually seemed like Shogun was a failure for almost a year and a half, until we realized, wow, we integrated it with the Shopify App Store, and Shopify is, such an awesome technology partner of ours. They have such a great following. And we just saw Shogun Page Builder start to really take off in the App Store. And after I want to say a year and a half after we integrated with the Shopify App Store, we're like, holy smokes, this is actually becoming a big business, a really big business. And today we have over 14,000 paying clients on Shogun Page Builder, and we're putting out a new product. So it went pretty well for us, obviously. But yeah, there was a period where actually it wasn't working, and there was a lot of failure during that time period. So it teaches you that you got to be persistent.
So it seems like when you went from trying to sell the product to everybody, and then you pivoted into, or niched down rather, into focusing on e-commerce and specifically Shopify, that's really when things started to pick up. How did Y Combinator fit into that? And what's the chronology for all those things?
Yeah. So I think that we started Shogun Page Builder in the spring of 2015, and it had no e-commerce application until the fall of 2015. And kind of as a last-ditch effort, we integrated with Shopify, and then we kind of gave up. But we didn't really give up, right? We kept working on the software. It was just a side project. So fall of 2015, we integrated with Shopify. By spring of 2017, the application was bringing in enough monthly recurring revenue to pay for a very modest salary for myself, my business partner, and a couple of part-time team members. And at that point, we said, wow, maybe this could be a real thing. Let's work on it full time again. And then I want to say late fall, almost winter of 2017 going into 2018, it had grown so substantially that we took it to Y Combinator and said, look at this growth of this software company that we built, this piece of software that we built. And Y Combinator, was like, I think that everyone is surprised. They're like, wait, hold on, this is a page builder though. No page builders exist. And we're like, yeah, but you got to see our page builder. You got to check out, and this is specifically for e-commerce companies. And we think we made something really cool. And look at this growth. And we realized just how large the opportunity is with e-commerce, right? I think that we're all seeing that right now as a result of this really unfortunate pandemic. It's kind of pressed the fast forward button on e-commerce. And the growth of this industry and the opportunity for merchants is just so enormous. And obviously, websites got to be built, right? And quite a lot of them. So we realized the market was big enough to have this be a very substantial opportunity. And so we decided to partner with Y Combinator. And since then, we also, we bootstrapped ourselves to significant profitability. But we wanted to take on a much larger team and also a second product. And so we've actually raised, I think our Series A was about $10 million. Our seed was about $2 million, so a little over $12 million in funding.
So what's that process? And I know we need to jump into the content.
Yeah, of course.
I'm so curious.
Sure.
What was that process actually like of going through Y Combinator and raising that money, and then having this capital to then deploy, but also have investors that you need to work with? And I mean, did Peter Thiel himself get involved? How did all that stuff work?
Yeah, that's a great question. So going to Y Combinator, Y Combinator was an amazing experience. My business partner Finbar and I were pretty familiar with Y Combinator just from being in the Bay Area and kind of having the networks that we have. But they provide an enormous amount of support. They have an amazing alumni network. And yeah, they kind of bring you together in this very collaborative way to have like peer-to-peer feedback. And we have excellent advisors. Our advisors for Shogun are Michael Siebel, who's the CEO of Y Combinator. He's now on the board of Reddit. He's also one of the founders of Twitch. And we've also got Gustav Alstromer. He's a successful entrepreneur and also ran product growth at Airbnb for quite a while. And he's a very, very sharp individual who's taught us a lot about, what key metrics to focus on. And yeah, you just get world-class support from them. And yeah, that process for us, I think that at the time, like Shogun was growing so much that we didn't get as much of the social aspect of YC, but like I know that for a lot of people, it's kind of like being in college or whatever. You get to meet these other entrepreneurs and everything. But yeah, really intense. There's a lot of pressure to grow, and it's over the course of this 3-month period. After that, so we partnered with Initialized Capital for both our seed investment and our Series A investment, with significant participation from VMG partners, which makes all of the delicious consumer packaged goods snacks that we enjoy. They are the financier for a lot of those companies. But yeah, the decision to raise venture capital was basically just a continuation of us seeing such an enormous opportunity, right? The depth of this market just really would surprise you, with with how many e-commerce sites are out there and what the projections are for the space to grow. And so we knew that we wanted to go for something really big. And while we were actually, profitable and it was easy for us to tack profitability, when you start to take on a really significant team, Shogun's about 70 people now, you have to be really sensitive to, finances and ensuring everybody's future and security. And it's good to have capital for that. Now, sometimes when you're a startup, fundraising can be a really intimidating thing that you need to do. You have to do it to keep your business alive. If you don't do it, your business won't do well. And I think that at that point, that's where you get in those situations where you give up more control of your company than you wanted to. You sell more of your company than you wanted to, all of those things. That's not always how it goes, right? If you're growing your company and it's really healthy and your metrics are looking solid and you're making good money, and you are stable, then fundraising isn't this intimidating, scary thing. It can be a really happy thing, where you're partnering with investors in a very strategic way. And we absolutely love our investors. We have investors on our board and they're great. We trust them. We're very thoughtful about who we partner with financially and who we bring onto our board. And yeah, it's just been an overall amazing experience with our investors as well. So yeah, I'll say that.
That is incredible. So I love, and again, I'll go back to this, but I love the diversity of experience that you have and the different perspectives of really working your way into a really interesting position and building an excellent piece of software and an excellent company. And so on that note, let's talk about some of these principles. Let's talk about the 3 fundamentals of how we can actually exceed the limits of modern e-commerce.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start just talking about the future, right? And I think to be honest, that this is going to be news to no one. E-commerce is highly mobile, becoming even more so by the day, right? In fact, I think that about like 50% or more of e-commerce now is mobile commerce. So for those of you who are listening who have products and who sell to consumers that are highly mobile, listen up. For those of you who are unsure, they're probably mobile, so listen up. For those of you who are in B2B or you're selling something that's like, whatever, $50,000 and somebody's not going to buy it on their phone, you don't need to worry as much, right? Or if you know that you're targeting like a much older demographic who's not going to be used to mobile shopping, you can kind of tune out to this thing. But for the rest of you, listen up, because everything is mobile now, So what does that mean, right? You need to design for mobile. Long gone are the days, for kind of designing, desktop first experiences. You should design mobile first. And you should also test your designs on mobile devices. And you can also use some of like just the in-browser tools in Google to take a look at that. And there's various third parties that you can use to see how it would look across various screen sizes, a lot of which are free. But there's nothing beats good old fashioned testing on your phone, on your friend's phone that has an Android, and so on and so forth. And really be exhaustive. Run through your entire site, trace your user flows to make sure that the entire experience from when they click that ad on Facebook or on Instagram to that landing page or to that PDP, that product detail page, to the cart, to the checkout is seamless and smooth as possible and looks great on a mobile phone, right? It's easy when you're designing for desktop for you to kind of, the real estate that you have there is so much more significant that you can design things in a way that don't translate to mobile nicely. Your images aren't optimized, et cetera, your text looks small. Really be careful there. And yeah, just think about that experience. Put yourself in the shoes of the shopper and have that empathy. I would also add, in addition to designing for mobile, let's do a brief refresher on CRO, right? Conversion rate optimization. What do shoppers really care about? Well, they want a website design that looks good, that looks clean, that looks professional, right? If your website's looking like it's something from the 1990s, people are going to not trust, right? They're going to be like, oh my goodness, am I actually going to get my product? If not, I'm going to get a refund, right? They're going to be scared. So make sure that your design is really clean. When in doubt, go minimal, go white, go do a bunch of white space. Like, honestly, if you have a mobile site that is nothing but a bunch of beautiful images and white space, you're looking good, right? Which brings me to the second point. Invest in really good looking photography, right? If there's one area to spend a little money, I would say like get your photographs looking really great. That's something to really pay professionals for, unless you happen to have a really great lighting setup and camera. I wouldn't I would consider outsourcing that. Really beautiful product photography can go a long way, and make, so lots of clean design. When in doubt, go minimal with white space. Beautiful photography. Make your CTAs dead easy and don't overload the shopper, right? Make the buttons, to go and view the PDP page or to add to cart, make those pop off the page, right? When in doubt, if it's a white background, go with a black button. It's really simple, right? Or whatever, dark purple, who cares? But make sure that it's easy and that there's not a million CTAs on the page, because if there's a whole bunch, go read our blog and go sign up for a newsletter and check this out and check that out. You're gonna overload people. Make every click easy, right? Make it undeniable what the next intended click should be for the consumer. And so you want to basically encapsulate all those things and make it mobile. Now there's a lot of other things, right? Like, if you put free shipping, or even if you have to bundle it in your cost, right? Everyone loves free shipping these days, and that they expect that. So kind of want that bar that says free shipping, or click here for a free shipping code. And the other thing that sometimes people forget: have a great return policy. Just do it. You know what I mean? Because when people are shopping, especially mobily, they want to kind of make a quick decision. They like the product. They're like, "Ooh, I want to make this buy, but what if I don't like it?" Right? That doubt comes up. Instill that trust. The way you can do that is by displaying your returns policy, making it really easy to return, putting that on your PDP page or your landing page, and then also having a page that if they click that link, it goes to a page that's dedicated to returns and stuff like that. It's just going to instill that trust, make it easier for them to just say, you know what, cool, I'm going to finish the checkout here, because that way I know that if I don't like it, I can return it. So I went on a bit of a tangent there into CRO, but basically you want to take all of that and encapsulate it in something that looks great in Safari on an iPhone, or in Chrome, what have you, on Android. So yeah, that's the first thing is build for mobile, focus on CRO.
So it seems like, to recap a little bit, we want to start with mobile first and then build for mobile, make sure it's awesome on mobile, and then let that translate into the full desktop experience, not the other way around,
Yeah.
unless you have the ability to adapt it and you're really good at that.
Yeah, and I would say this, like, a bit of a shameless plug, but in Shogun Page Builder, you can design for desktop, right, widescreen, laptop, tablet, and mobile. And you can make a design, and then you can go in and you can individually configure. You can basically reconfigure things for each of the screens on the style setting level. So you can have a slightly different style for text on mobile, make the text a lot bigger and keep it smaller on desktop, and you don't need to go and duplicate things and stuff like that. We have really robust, cross screen editing controls in Shogun, and you do have the ability to design unique experiences for each screen size, all without having to rely on a technical skill set. You can do this codelessly.
That is huge, because there's nothing more frustrating than changing the font on desktop and then you go on mobile and there's like a huge letter that takes up your whole screen. It's just so frustrating. So,
Yeah,
so we want to
absolutely.
start with mobile, go to desktop, and if in doubt, just be minimalist with it.
Yes.
Like you were saying, just stick with white, stick with highly contrasting colors. So if you have a white background, use a really dark button. And then I love what you said also about having the next step be very clear for the visitor, for the viewer of the page. We were just talking to John Benson the other day, he started Video Sales Letters. He's responsible for tens of billions of dollars of product being sold online. And
Yes.
what he was saying that really syncs up with what you're saying is focus on the power of one problem that your customers have, or one want that they want solved, and then in order to solve that, one solution, and keep them very focused on the path, the experience that you have created for them. And it's tremendously easy to create experiences for different screens, especially using Shogun, because you can look at your desktop version of your site, and then you can hop on over and look at mobile all within the builder. So that's really powerful. And another thing that you can try, and this is a little pro tip here, a little hack: get your friends or people who don't actually know that you're building this site, or even if they do, get them to open it in incognito mode, and get them to open it on different uh, devices, so that you can get real honest feedback and see how well does the site work on all the different uh, screens, and where do I need to tweak and make it better. Okay, perfect. So we talked about making it mobile friendly, and let's move on to principle number 2.
Yeah, absolutely. So the second thing that I would say, and this really ties into mobile, but it also applies to desktop as well, is you want to focus on performance. And what do I mean by performance? I mean specifically speed, right? The speed at which the site loads. Now, this could be a really, really deep, long technical explanation. I will spare you that, though. What I will say is this: you want to pay attention to a couple of key fundamentals, all right? Number one of the biggest things that drags down the performance of e-commerce websites is serving images in the wrong format, right? If you're serving your images as PNG or JPEG, you're going to have an adverse impact on your performance, especially if you went and took the time to do what I said earlier, which is have that beautiful product photography. It's going to be really, really rough on your performance. So what you want to do is you want to instead serve your images as WebP, which is a next generation image format. It's a lot better for web. And if you ever run your site through Google Page Speed Report, you'll probably see that this is what they recommend to do for images: is serve them in next generation formats. Now you can go ahead and ask your developer friend or agency to come and kind of help you out with that, or you can probably find a way to convert them yourself, and DIY it. If you're using Shogun, we automatically convert your images to WebP to help with that. But that's one thing that's really important. Number two, you want to make sure that your pages are lazy loaded. What does lazy loading mean? What it means is that when the page loads, it basically prioritizes the stuff that is above the fold, right? That the shopper can see at that time. And it doesn't worry, about trying to load the stuff below the fold right away because it doesn't need to, right? We know the shopper's not going to see it. And so as the shopper is scrolling, it's then loading the additional content below the fold as it needs to, as it anticipates the viewer needing to see it. Why does this matter? Well, it makes your load time faster. For perceptively, so that the shopper can see the content they want to see much more quickly, as opposed to having to wait for the entire page to load perfectly all at once, right? So you can, again, talk to your developer, your agency about implementing lazy loading, but it's really kind of the standard now. And yes, again, pardon all the shameless plugs, but with Shogun, your pages are lazy loaded by default. So you're going to get the benefit of that type of technology.
Well, I do want to hop in here and just say, finding a solutions provider that will handle all of these things for you is super unbelievably important, because if you're trying to hack together a few different solutions for all of these opportunities, I'll say, to make your site better and faster, they usually don't play too well together. So finding a service provider like a Shogun, for example, that was going to handle all of that for you, unbelievably powerful. And they're going to be keeping it up to date for you, and they're going to be doing the heavy R&D, and they're going to be investing in their product for a long time. So they're going to be able to keep you on the cutting edge without you actually having to go and maintain all that research. So you don't have to investigate 4 different products and make sure you're staying top with all of them, make sure they all integrate. If you have a solution that does all of them built in as part of the experience, that is where you want to be. Anyways.
Yeah, we're software as a service. So we're constantly upgrading the software, making it even better for our clients. And to be clear, the software isn't expensive. It's like $39 a month. There's a 10-day free trial on it. And not only that, but let's say you come into Shogun, you build out your whole website, and you say, haha, I'm done. Oh gosh, I don't want to have to pay anymore though. I built everything. Just uninstall the app. You keep all of your pages, all your changes, all that work you did, you keep it. It stays live on your site. Don't even worry about it. You can stop paying. If you're not using our software, don't pay for it.
Did you just tell people how to hack into that?
Sure. No. Listen, I know this for myself. Like, our software provides so much value that people keep coming back, right? Because at least once a month, folks are like, oh, and we'll talk about this in the next section. They're like, I want to make changes to my blog. I want to update my landing pages. I want to change something on my homepage, right? But I only, I try to be I don't try. I consider myself to be a very ethical, very good business person. And I only want you to pay for our service if you're seeing value, right? What we provide software, and we provide software as a service. We provide not just the software, but the ongoing maintenance and improvement of that software, plus the amazing 24/7 support team that you get access to, when you sign up for it, right? But I only want people to be paying for it if they're seeing value from it and using it. If they're not seeing value on a consistent basis, then there's no need to pay. We don't claw back those pages. At present, the way that we work with the e-commerce platforms allows us to continue to offer it even post uninstall, and so that's what we've continued to do. We've been doing it that way since 2015. Speaking of uninstalling, that leads to actually my third point on performance. Now, it can be very tempting when you get an e-commerce store to see all of these amazing applications and say, oh my gosh, and a lot of them are free, right? There's a bunch of free applications out there. It can be very tempting to say, oh, this could help my store. This could help my store. This could help my store, and start installing a ton of apps. Now, some apps, no issue, right? They don't affect performance. Shogun doesn't really affect performance. The reason for that is because the way that Shogun works is we take over kind of on the back end of things, right? We take, Shopify or BigCommerce's native, builder, or native, rich text field or whatever for putting content in, extrapolate that into this big, robust piece of software. But at the end of the day, what you build in Shogun just becomes pure code, really clean, SEO readable raw HTML that's hosted and served up by Shopify or by BigCommerce. With that being said, we are not in the load path, right? There's no API call to Shogun when your page is loading. Not the case for all apps though, right? Some, you can see, and you can see it when you do it on desktop. You see sometimes in the lower left-hand corner, it's like loading this, loading that, loading that, loading that. Those are little API calls going to third-party apps asking for data, right? Now, when you install a bunch of apps that generate API calls in that way, you're going to slow down the speed of your page. So that's one way that installing a ton of apps can affect performance. The other thing is that when you install applications, all of them inject code into your theme, right? They inject code into your instance. Shogun, we keep it really light. It's just 6 little lines of code. It's so easy to remove that you don't even need to be technical to remove it. But if you had a problem with that, our support team can remove it in like under 2 minutes. It's nothing, right? However, some applications can inject an enormous amount of code into your theme files. In fact, some of them can create a whole bunch of new theme files, right? More theme files, more code in your theme, more bloat, right? More code equals longer time for the page to load.
No, we don't like that.
Worst part is, even when you uninstall, even with Shogun, if you uninstall the app, the code's still in there. Why? Just because of architecture, right? Once you uninstall an app, it no longer has authorization on your account, and therefore it can't go clean up after itself. What does that mean? Zombie code. Very scary. It's dead code that is left injected into your theme. So then you need a developer or somebody else to go clean all that code out. So again, another piece of advice, I'm not saying don't use apps. Apps are great. Go use them. There's so many useful ones for email, for customer support, for reviews, for page building, right? There's tons of useful apps, but be really thoughtful about it. Ask yourself, is this application really necessary, right? Am I going to see a ton of value from it? If the answer to that is no, then don't use it. And if you're not using the application, uninstall it and then go ask a developer maybe to take a look at your site, remove the unnecessary code.
Well, that is a whole lot to chew on, and I think if we just want to get a high level summary of that, make sure we have a high performing site.
Yep.
At the end of the day, do what it takes to make sure your site's blazing fast. You can use tools like Google Page Insights and different other page rank calculator deals, not page rank, site speed calculators that'll tell you, hey, you have this issue, that issue, that issue. I'm sure there are plenty of Google or YouTube videos out there that you can check out, or blog posts or whatever to read to fix those. But those are some really, really powerful strategies. So
yeah, I just say at a high level, next generation image formats, lazy loading, don't use too many apps. There you go.
Right on. Cool, man. So let's move on to our third and final piece of wisdom.
Awesome. Yeah. So the third piece of wisdom is to stay on top of things. It's pretty easy. You know what I mean? But basically, it used to be that you could create an e-commerce site, and despite maybe every once in a while doing a landing page for a holiday sale or something like that, that your site could kind of be set and forget. You know what I mean? You build something, then you can leave it. Today, because there are so many e-commerce sites being built, so many D2C brands coming out, so many drop shipping companies coming out, so much volatility with the market because of the pandemic, right? That and so many new awesome CRO, conversion rate optimization tactics to try. You want to be constantly iterating on your site to figure out what is going to work, right? And the way that you do that is you kind of try to, become like a little scientist, right? You develop a hypothesis that says, okay, if I put up this landing page, or if I change this thing about my, my homepage, or if I, include a free shipping bar, or if I, add an email collection widget, right? If I hypothesize that if I do that, I will achieve X result. And then you go test, right? And you go test those theories. Shogun has A/B testing in it, but to be honest, you don't need to jump to that immediately. You can just start by building and then looking at Google Analytics and kind of making adjustments, seeing what happens in Google Analytics or Shopify Analytics or BigCommerce Analytics. And if you really start to want to get fine grained with it, you can check out A/B testing. But you want to be iterative on your site, right? You want to iterate, you want to adapt, you want to wake up each morning and check your statistics, check your analytics, and see how things are trending. Obviously, it helps having a way to quickly iterate without having to go through a developer each time. Again, kind of shamelessly plugging our software here, but I'll say this: Shogun isn't the only game in town, right? And of course, if you have a business partner who's technical, who knows like Shopify themes and Liquid and stuff like that, that's also a perfectly great way. Or agencies. Shogun is partnered with a ton of fantastic Shopify and Shopify Plus agencies. We can't recommend them enough. Sometimes when your business is really flying, you don't have time to pay attention to all this stuff. You just want to outsource it to an amazing professional that knows exactly how to do this. But if you're more in a DIY mode, if you're scrappy, if you're tight on cash, then it's really good to kind of be able to empower yourself to do it yourself. And we feel like our software really empowers people to do that way, and is built on really quality, solid engineering that is going to make sure that your site looks good on mobile, is highly performant in terms of speed. So yeah, that's what I'd say.
So in a nutshell, for this third piece, we want to embrace the power of science. And we want to run little experiments and tests and see, like, hey, if I change the color of this one button here that gets pressed a lot of times, if I change it to green, does that make people want to click it more? If I change it to purple, am I getting more purchases? And doing little tests like that can make a lot of difference, especially if you're either running paid traffic, or you have a lot of traffic, or you're doing a promo push. It doesn't hurt to test. It really can only help you in the grand scheme of things and over time, because you never know what small tweak, like maybe you change one headline, and instead of tapping into somebody's want, you somehow tweak it to tap into like a deep psychological need or something, that could have a huge impact.
Definitely.
Right on. So, man, I really cannot thank you enough. Nikki, you've shared so much here, and I really appreciate you sharing your story and your journey of how you got here, giving us some really powerful strategies that we can use to exceed the limits of modern e-commerce, stay on that cutting edge and a little bit ahead of it. So I just want to thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for everything. I'm really appreciative.
Ben, it was such an honor to be on the show, and yeah, hopefully I'll be on again someday. So yeah, thank you so much.
Absolutely. And before we say our final goodbyes here, I know that you prepared a very special gift for you, ladies and gentlemen, who are listening and watching right now. This is the only place that you can get this gift. So let's let me borrow your ears for a few moments more. Nick has prepared something really special for us.
Yeah, absolutely. So specifically for listeners of this podcast, we are giving 20% off any Shogun page builder plan for life. So we'll go ahead and include a special link here in the comments or description, and clicking that link will take you to a Shopify App Store page for Shogun. The pricing there will look standard, but then once you click, to install the app, you're going to go ahead and see all of the pricing reduced by 20% on the pick a plan page. And, that's good for life. So those discounts are pretty handy.
Saving money. That's what we're doing. Oh yeah. Well, Nick, seriously, I appreciate you giving that gift to our listeners here and everybody's watching and listening. This is an opportunity for you to get great software. I'm talking really exceptional software for 20% off. It really doesn't get any better than that. So go and click either in the description below on video or in the show notes for the podcast. Go click, go get your discount, make tons of money, be super successful, live the life that you've always wanted to live, and continue to be awesome. So anyways, Nick, I want to thank you so much. Everybody who's watching and listening, I want to thank you. You rock, especially you right there. I see you. You're doing great. And I will see you on the next episode. Take care now.